Hey, hi. It's great that you're all here. Thank you so much. I'm just logging in and inviting Mandy, and I see you, and I will invite you. All right, there you are.
We did it!
Right. Oh, thank you so much for being here and going along with the tech stuff.
Well, this is totally my fault too. I'm always like, wait, what? How? Where? So thank you for being patient with me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's just amazing to have you here to get to have this chance to have a beautiful conversation with you. And I'm just gonna say hi to everyone that hops on as well today. We're on here for a new soul care life class. And today's topic is a super special and amazing one. It is how to manifest your dreams and desires, um, and how to do that powerfully and authentically. And I believe that you, Mandy, you're the teacher for this. And I'd love to give you a bit of like a warm welcome and a bit of an introduction by sharing what it is that I know, and of course about you on our short journey that we know each other. But if I leave out anything, please add on afterwards if you can, please.
Sounds
Um,
good.
right, great. And also everybody hopping on here. And you, Mandy, so grateful for you sharing your precious time here and that you're here with us. If anybody watching this now, today, or listening to this later on the podcast or watching this later on, feel free to send us your questions and right now typing them in the chat box below. If if you ask questions, I always believe it's a brave thing to do so. So you're so welcome to do that. Where we can, we'll answer, and um, along the whole life class, will just flow and follow as everything may go. And yeah, just to give you this introduction, and to you, Mandy, I believe that you're such a special being. I think what you and your husband bring out and pour into this world it touches my heart. The things that I get to see, and it is just so warm. And I don't even personally know you yet as that well, but I mean, it touches me. So I feel so connected, and I'm grateful for that, for you being of true service in this world.
Thank you.
And just for people that hop on here that might not know you yet, or have more things that they'd like to know about, you, as I believe, are the author of other books too. But your newest book is The 8 Secrets to Powerful Manifesting. And I think that's, yeah, congratulations there
Thank you.
to this journey, to your books, but also bringing this one in such a beautiful way into this world. And I also believe that you're a founder, you're a true entrepreneur at heart. You're also the founder of Authentic Living, and you now live with your husband and your beautiful kids and animals even, near your own retreat center, Authentic. Wait, I just need to check it if I say it right. Um, Authentic Living Heartland.
Yes.
Uh, I think it's so beautiful. I love the name, and there are so many students that are being, well, not only being coached, but also being trained to become a coach by you and your beautiful. Um, it's not a foundation. It's a true school, right? In that sense, and there are over 800,000 students over 60 countries on this earth, being trained by you and your beautiful team. And I'm just so grateful to get to meet you and to get to talk to you today.
Thank you so
Well,
much for having me.
Yes. Did I maybe leave out on anything or?
We're always, it's so funny, my team and myself, we always have about 10,000 things we're doing, and we're moving in 10 different directions in every moment. So I think everything you said was just perfect.
All right, great. It is always like this moment, like, oh, I hope I repeat the things in the way that it's meant to do. So I'm just grateful that everything works out. And I'll just repeat the topic for people watching. So how to invest, manifest, also invest in manifesting, but how to manifest your dreams and your desires in a powerful way so that you can stay authentic. Well, powerfully and authentically in that sense. And I know that your newest book is written about this, of course, and you dive all into it. So I hope that at the end of today you'll share where people can find this and where people can buy your book. But I'd also love to get to know you a bit and to understand what this topic means to you, and maybe after that having some other questions for you as well, but let's start there.
Absolutely. Manifestation was not something that I thought that I would be teaching the world by any means. I had a background in psychology and self-taught science, neuroscience, metaphysics, quantum physics. I wanted proof to everything. And it was my certainty-based needs, and I wanted to feel a part of it, I believe, going backwards, was I wanted to feel good enough that I had the information and that I knew what I was talking about. It had nothing to do with manifestation. Again, at this point, I just wanted to be a therapist and I wanted to help the world. And I was so lost within myself, I had no idea how to get there. And it wasn't until this incredible moment where I was actually in an abusive relationship. And he had kind of just brought me to my knees, and it was such a dysfunctional, like, awareness. At least all of a sudden I'm looking around and I'm like, how did I get here? How is this my life? I've got this background, seemingly so. I've shared space with NASA scientists and incredible psychiatrists and all of this stuff, but I wasn't capable of helping myself or helping anyone at that point. And at that moment where I looked at my life and was like, this is not working for me, this can't be it, I called to my higher power, and I was like, I don't know why this is what I said, but I said, I'm here for a reason. I have no idea what it is. Nothing makes sense, but please just bring me peace and show me what I'm supposed to do. And my life literally 180'd, it flipped on its head, and that relationship and my life and my job, everything was removed within just a few weeks' time. And it was so profound and it was so beautiful. By no means was everything perfect after that. The real work began. But it became a wild ride of excitement and empowerment, instead of every time when you're trying to grow and understand yourself and really what I would call manifest the life that you want, and it doesn't work. It stopped feeling that way for me in that moment moving forward. And I began to really pull all these tools, divinely speaking, understanding and observing my life and others. And manifestation just came out. I think it took me a good 6 months, 8 months. I was actually Mandy Morris, helping men start over. So I was working with men with trauma when I first started my purpose work. And then manifestation popped up like 8 months later. And I was like, okay, universe, if that's what I'm going to do, then that's what I'll do. And I'm cool with it. So I answered the calling and then started compiling all the information that I get to share today about manifestation, which I want to change the conversation around manifestation. It's not woo-woo. It's not miracles fall in your lap for no reason. Those things can happen, but that's after you do the work. But manifestation is really rooted, at least the way that I teach it, I understand it, and why it works so well for me and my students is we're jumping into the psychology and the science, and then those miracles get to kind of just fall in our lap after that.
Wow.
That was a lot. I can talk a lot.
Yes, and I love it. I'm so grateful for you sharing also the realness of life on where, as all us human beings have these lows as well on our journeys, right? And this is often where our callings are born if we're willing to listen and open, and as you did, ask for it even.
Yeah.
And I just love that you dare to be so open and vulnerable in that sense and just be real. Thank you so much for doing that.
Of course. Can't be any other way.
Oh, and I can imagine that. And I resonate with you on some personal levels as well, having been in these types of relationships and a background as a therapist. So I kind of understand you in that sense as well. And I'm just grateful for the realness of that. And um, so could you maybe share with us how when you walk that path, you know, before that low or before that wake up call, what was it that you first of thought you were meant to do or live? As you were a therapist, you shared and you worked with men before with trauma. So if you're willing and feel safe enough to share that, like, what was it that, you know, somewhere you already embarked on the healer's journey there, right?
Yeah.
Um, so where was that drive or that feeling born?
I feel like, I imagine in some parts, I think we all have this in our own way, but in some parts it was close to birth. You know, I was that child that was always looking out for other people, or the principal would come and pull me out of class because there was a child acting up and I could calm them down. I mean, crazy things. And when I was 10, I shut that light off. I shut off that care for other people and that desire to, you know, make people feel better. And there were various reasons behind that. One of them being a few years after that, my father had called me during his suicide attempt. And I was like, if I can't even help my own father and he wants to die, then who am I to help anyone else? And so that changed the trajectory for so long in my life, where I went into adolescence and I was such a punk. And I was like, okay, let me sell drugs and do drugs and hang out with, you know, people who actually I love very much. And to this day, the ones who are still on the planet, those friends were amazing in many ways, but they were wounded like I was. And so I became so attracted to that woundedness. And then when I hit my early 20s, so much dysfunction had found me, and I was choosing it clearly at that point. But there was still that innate desire to love the world. I didn't feel worthy to serve anymore because of my choices, but that love for the world and the understanding of the pain that the world was in was huge in me. And I didn't know how to transmute it. I didn't know what to do with it. So I just embodied it instead and carried that pain with me. But thankfully so, when I hit that moment, that was when I kind of woke back up to my childlike love for the world and that, you know, that version of me. But I think it peppered throughout my life, you know, that care and that understanding. And I feel like, gosh, I remember as a little girl sitting there in my room and I'd be crying, but I would say, I'm not crying for myself. It's not my sadness, but I don't know whose it is. And I would feel someone in the world, that was my perception, at least as a little girl, and I would be crying for them, you know, just releasing that energy. And that I could not explain, other than maybe I was plopped on the planet to do that little piece. But I know that we all have that journey of, we know what we can do. We know what our light is. We know what our gift is in the world, which is just us being ourselves. It's just our authentic self. We don't have to do. It's really cool that I get to do what I do. But me just being me, I think that that would also be a gift to the world. And I think that everybody who just embodies their authentic self, it never underestimate how magical that is. But then we have these moments in life that shut that light off or has been taken from us. And we forget that the light is still flickering somewhere in the background, but it's definitely not, you know, fully ignited. And so we always talk about this in our events, but how do we get that flicker to turn into a bonfire so that if someone were to blow on it, that they would actually just add to the fire. They couldn't blow it out because it's just so strong. But yeah, it was a journey for sure. But I think maybe I came to the planet with it, or I started feeling the pain of it enough to want to do something about it.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much for this and for the depth of this. I love how you share that. I even resonate even more at some point choosing these yeah, being attracted to that part of life and to the brokenness at some points, and you know, going through these depths. And this is what makes us human as well, the human experience of having this light or this fire inside, as you have this beautiful metaphor, this flickering little fire before it becomes the bonfire again. It's such a journey to open up to that again, and to it has always been there. And you know, are we able to connect? Are we able to let it shine through again?
Yeah.
It, 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 it takes us you know, I believe that it takes to go so deep, and especially if we have these big lights, the darkness is sometimes also very big. Calling darkness in this sense, the choice is attracted to the dysfunctional relationships or the drugs, or you know, these parts that, yeah, that gets us there. I have this background having attracted some sorts of violence as well, and also sexual violence, and this can take us, so us human beings, but me just talking about myself now, it took me on a very deep path, and I'm just grateful to connect with you and that you're so open about this, because I feel that this is what will help listeners, watchers, viewers today, but also people reading your book, to connect with you even more, right?
But we
Because
need
you're
to
so
have these conversations, right? Like we need to start talking about it to where we're empowered through our trauma instead of, I mean, I cannot tell you enough, when I'm sure that you would agree with this in your line of work. When I started in this line of work, I was appalled by how many people have experienced sexual violence, male and female. It was, you know, both ways, but sitting there going, oh my, and most of it being when they were children. And I was like, whoo, okay, let this trigger sit to the side, because now I want to go fight everybody. But how do I help these people heal? Because I, you know, also having experienced sexual violence, I know, and you know, it is unbelievable, but no one's talking about it. And I'm like, you know what? We've got to create a new conversation around it so that it isn't so painful to revisit. We don't have to revisit in and of itself, but we can't let that inaccurately hold us in a place that doesn't serve us. But we've got to start with having the conversations about what we've gone through in our lives, or how we're going to heal it so that it doesn't recreate itself, whether that's energetically or, you know, really in our lives in the physical.
Yes, exactly. I totally agree with you. And I also have experienced almost the surprise. I remember I had these beautiful trainers on my journey. And during this one training course, of kind of, body work, I think, and energy work, but also more of the psychology behind everything. I remember being in a classroom when the trainer calling out these numbers, the percentages of people, you know, both male and female. And I remember being in the classroom, and there was enough safety for people to speak up about it. And it was like the proof of the percentages right there and then in this classroom. 5 women stood up and said, yes, me too. And then, you know, I was like blown away by it. Like, wow, I never ever before that, I never thought of it that way. Like sitting in a train or a bus or in a classroom or somewhere, you know, being surrounded by everyone having experiences with this. And then there's even this part where you just shared it so beautifully. I even believe, but this is, bear with me, I'm not stating any percentages, and I'm not, you know, I have not done any scientific research on this right now, currently. But I actually believe that the conversation around men having experienced sexual trauma is even less. It's even less in this world, and it's maybe even more necessary right now to also, you know, include men in this conversation.
Absolutely.
Because some of these percentages, I even think they might not be correct. It might be even 50-50 or more. Yeah. This is a feeling.
Well, I can say in how much I've experienced and worked with this, that wouldn't be completely off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm grateful for you sharing that and seeing that and making this conversation possible. And then going from the depths and, you know, doing some root work here as a part of the journey. How would you, listeners or watchers today, but also later on, how would you say they can go from that type of work to then, you know, daring to even dream, and then maybe from there on starting to manifest more of that, and do
Yeah.
that authentically. What would you say
Gosh.
would be
I'm like, I've got like 10,000 thoughts. I will give them all. It's so the biggest thing, the biggest piece, at least that I have seen within myself and everyone that I've been so blessed to work with, is it starts and ends with us. I think sometimes, getting to the manifestation part, that we perceive that it's something that happens outside of us or that we get blessed with. And I always say, like, it doesn't matter what walk of life you're in, no matter who is listening, no matter what you've gone through. And if you knew my full story, I think that you would feel, pretty confident in what I'm saying here, regardless of what you've gone through in your human experience. I call it the human story that might be riddled with pain and confusion and societal expectations or cultural beliefs, or, fill in the blank. All of that is just one piece. It's one chapter in the book. Now, our human minds have made it the whole story. They've made it the whole darn thing. But it's so unbelievably incorrect. And you can, if you want it from a scientific perspective, you can rewire your brain. Neuroplasticity has shown us that, thank goodness. You can rewire your thoughts. Psychology shows that as well. And all of those pieces allow for us to create self-mastery. And when we're looking at self-mastery, that's the one thing we can control. It is the one thing that we are fully in charge of. And so I always say, when someone's like, I want to change my life, sometimes they start looking outside of them. And although the answers may seemingly be outside of them, because there might be, one of us who needs to deliver it or something, but we're just facilitating the information that they already know. But you're really peeling things off of you, getting the layers off that aren't you, the trauma, the perceptions, and all that stuff, so that you can get back to that essence of what you are. Mastering who you are and how you interact with your environment will change your environment. It's like the chicken or the egg. Which one's going to come first? It's always us. It's us leaning into whom we are, being willing to dive into those places. And I always say growth is fun. If I had to go into every one of my traumas and relive them to heal, oh my gosh, I hate that sometimes people say that. I'm like, no, you actually don't. And I've had so many clients that can't even access the amount of memories and pain that they have, that they go on to live incredible lives. So obviously that's a flawed belief, but we do have to work on the beliefs and the thoughts and the behaviors that show up today, because that deciphers tomorrow.
Yes. Yes, thank you for that. I totally I feel I love how you share this piece of, we tend to, at some point when the trauma has been so profound, we tend to kind of cling on to that story and repeat it over and over and over. It's not your fault to have that, right?
It keeps us safe. We're like, if we remember it, then we'll be able to avoid it.
Exactly. So this is something, at one point in your life, it has been a coping strategy or mechanism that has been helpful for a while. And then it's so good to find out that you can actually heal from this. And there are so many ways to rewire your brain and to change those thoughts so that your behavior gets changed. And thank you so much for pointing that out, and for having people, kind of, if people are in a low point right now, just know that you can always go back to where you once were, and even maybe get back better and stronger from it.
Absolutely.
What would you, when it comes to people's journeys and, coming from lows into highs, and, as life goes in these waves, what would you say have been like the best trainings or courses or trainers for you, like people that really supported you on your journey? And what would you say or share maybe that could be beneficial for people listening and watching?
This is such a good question. And every time I answer it, I'm like, oh gosh, I hope that this is okay. I didn't learn from anyone. My husband was incredibly supportive, but other than that, I literally just rolled up my sleeves and figured it out. And I think, depending on who you talk to, I did it fast, but I also feel like I did it slow. And so I'm like, learn from someone who embodies the frequency that you seek, because they already did it. So now, and my clients will say this, they're like, Mandy did it first so we can do it faster. And I'm like, absolutely. And a million times over, I would do it again just that way. But for some reason, I just didn't have the few times where I had, and this was a crazy experience in the coaching world. I've only had 2 coaches in my life that I've paid and, learned from. And one lasted like a month, and I was like 20. And I was, just trying out. I was like, I want a life coach. Let's see what happens. And it was okay. It was all right. I had way more trauma work to do than what coaching could present at the time. And then the second time that I did, I was so sorely disappointed, and I would never say this coach's name, but I was so sorely disappointed in this experience that I had always thought, wow, like what a prestigious thing to be a coach. Like you must really have it all together. Me being so naive that everyone's truly in alignment if they're really going to serve. And it rocked me because I wasn't trying to be, a coach at the time or even a therapist. I'd kind of given up on all of that. And I was like, I'm going into pharmaceutical sales or something crazy, something that will pay the bills. And I remember thinking, okay, this is, if I'm going to, if the universe is kind of pushing me in this direction, if I am meant to serve the world in this way, integrity will be at the forefront of it. And someone who houses the frequency in which I seek, who truly has, I don't care about the lifestyle, but the energy that I'm looking for, then I would learn from that. And for some reason, it just never presented itself to me. And so I curated it myself. But I would say to anyone listening, look for someone who has done it already. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but make sure that they live in that integrity where you do, as a client, you come first. And they will hold you to that highest standard and love you in those ways, because it's absolutely needed to have someone. And maybe that's why I always say, I'm like, maybe that's why I didn't have a coach, because my husband and I, we can go back and forth and we will like exponentially grow. So we're pretty lucky in that sense. But if I didn't have him, I probably would have looked for some type of community to assist me in this process, to call me out when I was, falling into some old patterns or whatever that may be. But I never studied manifestation, at least not, officially, I should say. Of course, everyone's learning manifestation in some weird way all the time. But it was just this really natural process that I was reverse engineering throughout my life.
I love that so much. Thank you so much for the honesty there, and the, like you pointed out, the integrity is there in there as well by daring to be honest. I'm really amazed by the beauty of what you just shared. For some reason, your journey seems to have been about trusting yourself there, to stand in your own strength, and to maybe trust that, of course, you don't have to do it alone, but that you might have been safe enough to at least feel that you can do it alone. And that
was my lesson, right? Sometimes that's our lesson. We're like, oh, the whole thing, it has nothing to do with getting to this place. It's all about us healing this part, which for me was totally trusting myself. Me being willing to listen to my own inner voice again. Oh, so scary. No way. So of course that was exactly what my higher power or myself was like, this is the first step. You're going to learn how to curate this yourself. And so I love when folks come to me and they're like, okay, tell me the 10 steps. What is this? What do I do? And I'm like, oh, well, we're not going to do any steps. And they get so mad and they're like, what? This is why I paid for this event. And I'm like, no, in the highest good of all you're going to learn is how to trust yourself. And then of course it beautifully happens, but I'm like, that's just a part of serving you truly. That's how it looks.
Oh, I love that. Oh, thank you so much for pointing this out, because this might also be happening for people listening and watching and following you as well, and your readers. And I also know that some of our clients and our audience are probably going through this themselves too, that if it is in your highest good, or if it's supposed to go this way for you, that you encounter some situation working together with people or a coach, and you discover that the lesson in it for you is to trust yourself and your intuition, then that is what is supposed to happen, and you can trust in that. But sometimes trust is a fully topic on its own to get into, maybe for another conversation now. I'm just grateful for you touching on the base of it. And I'm grateful for you. Yeah, for the beauty you send out here, and for this connection. I really, I'm touched by everything you say. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I feel we've covered a lot of grounds already here. But just maybe just to dive in a bit, we call these classes, we call them soul care life classes, and as we've already covered, the trusting in yourself, the intuition, the, you know, kind of breaking through old patterns in order to finally believe that you are able to heal and, you know, recover from deep trauma. And we've also even dove into the depth of depths, the sexual trauma as well. So when it comes, you know, as you now and listeners too have probably experienced something similar, as you now are here on your journey, being, you know, being the founder of this beautiful authentic living school, almost your retreat center, having your books and putting all this love into this world for others to grow with you and to discover they can do this for themselves too. On your journey, your entrepreneurial journey, how did you, well, or maybe first, what have you encountered when it came to putting your own health first on this journey? And, you know, what would you maybe say to others on how they can do that too on their entrepreneurial roads? You
Yeah.
know?
Ooh, good question. Good question. And I was so bad at self-care for so long because I was like, I'm a martyr, self-sacrifice, give everything to everyone in every moment. And obviously that doesn't work when you're truly serving, and especially in entrepreneurship. We have to fill our cup up if we're going to serve our clients, regardless of if it's a product or a service or everything in between. And so that was actually one of the most defining pieces to me being able to reach the level of success that I'm at and hope to continue to grow in, is that I would be so cautious of, and I would pay attention to when my energy began to dip. Now, I do say that when I'm, when I'm serving people, and I think that this is really true with therapists and coaches and so forth, when you're doing trauma work, I get myself into an extremely high vibrational state. And so that transmutes most of the energy. But I noticed that I had to learn how to get there because, and I hear this so much with the therapists that I train, they're so burnt out, especially if they're working with trafficking or some really heavy stuff day in and day out, 8 hours a day. I'm like, please tell me that in equal amounts you are doing self-care and clearing all of this energy, because if you're trying to serve when you are triggered, trying to serve when you are frustrated, or any entrepreneurial walk, trying to create the next product or service from an empty cup, like good luck. It is such an uphill battle and you're playing such a human game versus what I really believe entrepreneurship, and especially when you're in self-development in that world as well, it's the world is your oyster. You can create so much, but your energy is everything. And so I had to kind of learn that, but I got really good at it really fast because I was paying attention to my energy. My book, the first chapter is all about, the first secret is energetic check-ins. How do you become aware of the conversation that you're having? And I would say, so many folks who have seen, my business success, I guess we would call it, they're like, how did you do that? You just kind of fell out of the sky and, here you are now. It's 7 years later, but you're at this level. That's not typical. And I'm like, so isn't life. I'm playing the energy game. I'm taking quantum leaps because I'm paying attention to my energy, and I'm taking time when I need to, and I'm stopping when I need to. I'm not shaming myself or willing myself with, sheer power to get things done. Instead, I'm letting the chips fall as they may, but I'm showing up as the greatest version of me. And that allows for, I think, something that we forget in entrepreneurship, which is full, well-rounded fulfillment instead of just business success. Because I've seen so many, and I work with so many people that I've seen throughout the years where they've got the financial success, but their family life is either non-existent or really, unhealthy, or they've got the physical health, but this thing is falling apart over here. So I'm like, how do we create a well-rounded area of fulfillment where all areas are, beautifully and authentically as they should be, and they're fulfilling, Well, we have to pay attention to our energy. We can't look at the world and say, tell me how to do it, and not process from our own intuitive heart space, is this right for me?
Yes. Ooh, like blown away by this beautiful info. Just trying to kind of rephrase it in short. I don't think that's possible, but
Take care of yourself.
take care of yourself, and especially the energetic check-ins, and how the first chapter of your book is mostly based in this. I even saw somebody, like 3 people already, saying that they love that chapter and that they love your book. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
There was also a question coming by, and I thought maybe to repeat it, if that's okay with you, Mandy.
Yeah,
There's here, what is the name of the channeling book that your husband gave you?
the name of the channeling book. Oh, years ago. Oh gosh, what was it? Was it Bringers of the Dawn? I'll have to post it up. I think it was Bringers of the Dawn, and I can't remember. I think it was Barbara Marciniak. Am I saying that right? She wrote all these like Palladian books, but I know that the cover had this like sunset, or maybe it was a sunrise, and it was so beautiful. It was a crazy, crazy story, but he actually, my husband, had kind of opened up that gift in me to be able to pull in information that I didn't know that I had, if you will. So that book wasn't specifically how to channel. It just accessed something in me that, you know, helped me bring forth that gift.
Love it. Thank you. I hope this is helpful for you, beautiful soul, asking the question. Thanks, everybody, for all the beautiful hearts. There are many popping up here.
I know I see some of the names and I'm like, hey, I know you, I know you, I know you. All these authentic lifers or folks who are jumping into the book. So I always remember.
Great. Happy that you're all here and sharing your precious time and being here. Oh, thank you. There's somebody here putting in the link. It's pleiadians.com/dawn. Amazing. All right. Love that. Well, what we usually do on these live classes, we give some space at the end of it to give some space if you feel like it. Mandy, if you're up for it, we don't have to necessarily, but if you feel like it, would you maybe be willing to share or do a short exercise here with us, with everybody listening and
Yeah,
watching?
I would love to. So I think, let's see. I have so many. Let's go with a really simple one that everyone can do as soon as, and I think many of the folks who are reading the book are probably already doing. And I'll explain where it came from if that's okay too, because I think that there's power in knowing why in the heck I do the things that I do. So I call this set it and forget it manifesting. I noticed that this was happening. I didn't know what to call it. But for those of you who don't know, I am an avid journaler. I am such a nut. We're coming out with a journal soon. I'm such a nut about journaling because it's been so powerful in my life. Since I was 5 years old, I was writing to God at the time. I'd be like, thanks for this and that. Please help so-and-so. Their mom has cancer. Please say hi to grandpa. That's what I would just write. And then I would throw them outside. I thought that they would fly up to the clouds because that's where God was. 5-year-old, right? And so that continued though, where I started just writing. I think I was writing to a higher power in a way, but I was also just expressing. And I did that my entire life. Still to this day, even in my library, I have journal after journal of the ones that I've saved. And it's allowed for me to look back on my past with more factual information and know how I was truly feeling. Because sometimes, especially with traumas, things kind of get a little crossed over and you don't really know what really happened or what you were really thinking or, you know, all this stuff. And so it allowed for me to reverse engineer really my life and a lot of the manifestation processes that I was doing. But this one, I noticed what happened where I would completely forget that I had wrote something down. But I would always, because I'm always rereading my notes, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I wrote this a year ago and we're doing it today. How did that happen? And so I noticed I would say, I mean, down to my child, my youngest one, I said, we're going to have him, you know, the day after I'm married, and we're going to be by the beach and all. And we were living in Dallas at the time. Nothing that even would make sense. Even my book deal in and of itself, I wrote back in the end of 2016. If it's in the highest good of all, I always say that. I would love to write a book for Hay House or with Hay House, you know, and touch the world. Completely forgot about it until all of a sudden one day someone's ringing me up saying, hey, do you want to write another book? And I'm like, what? So I'd forgotten these things, but I'd look back, but I noticed the piece of it that was consistent as to why these things would always come to fruition was that I would only write them when I was in a very, very high vibrational state. So I would only write the details that felt high to me. So if I wrote like, oh, it's got to come by this summer, and if that felt heavy, cross it out. I would only write the parts that felt completely possible, felt completely right, with as little or as much detail as I could muster, that again kept me in that high state, and then I would forget about it. I would just let the universe do its thing and I would stay out of the way. Now, opportunities would show up for me to grow through whatever was in the way of me reaching that point. And that is the biggest piece that I teach in my book, really, is how do you ensure that when you think the universe is coming to knock you off your chair, it's actually here to make sure that you get to what you want and you keep what you want because you're on a new vibration because you've done the work behind it. But the set it and forget it is you set it, you kind of energetically stamp it in that really high space, and then you release so that you're not sitting there going, I call it counter manifesting, but going, oh, it's supposed to come through. It's not looking like it will come through. What's going to happen? And you're bringing all this dense energy and fear into it, which then, of course, messes up the manifestation in and of itself. So set it and forget it. Get yourself into a high state. I'm sure that most of the listeners are already in a high state, or go outside, you know, look at a picture of the ocean, whatever brings you into a beautiful space. Journal down just a few pieces of what you'd like to create. Put any specificity or lack thereof that feels good. And then you need to release it. And in 6 months, reread it and see what's happened.
I love it. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Everybody here is also answering to this, that they love it. And somebody's asking, how do you know that you are in a high vibrational state? How do you notice that?
Great question. So I say it's a little bit different definition for everyone, and everyone feel free to post up what it feels like for you. But for me, I'm like, it feels like centeredness. I'm not thinking about the past. I'm not living in the future in a way that doesn't serve me. I'm just here in the now, and I'm really content in it. I also have a feeling of what's possible. So I call it the vibration of pure possibility, where I'm like, dang, you know, if you asked me yesterday when I was in a bad mood, I'd be like, no, of course I can't be a billionaire or something like that, or have a child, or find my soulmate, fill in the blank, right? But then there's that space of, I think that's kind of possible. Okay, I don't know how, I don't have all the steps, but I can kind of feel like that's here for me now, or that I could get there. That's what you're looking for. And of course, you want to get to that point where you're like, I know it's on the way. I know I can create anything that I want. And I know it's in the highest good of all, fill in the blank. That's super, super high vibrational. But even if you're just in the state of possibility, what a beautiful place to be.
Yes. I love it. And thank you. Somebody's here sharing. For me, I feel present and in peace. That's when I know that I'm in a high vibration state. And somebody else is sharing, I feel whole. And even if there is chaos, I feel like everything is working out for the good. Even so, thank you, everyone. I think this is such a beautiful exercise. Could you repeat one more time the name of it so that people can just know?
Yes, set it and forget it. Manifestation. I tried to keep it catchy but short. Sometimes, like the name of the book, everyone's like the 8C, they get all tripped up because it's so long. I'm like, I know it's a really long title and some of the things I say, so I'm like, I better give some easier ones. So set it and forget it.
I love it, and it's beautiful how quick to forget the name for me just now happened. But I love it so much, and I'm so grateful for everything that you pour into this, into your books, into your lifestyle, even the way that you spread your message. I'm so grateful that you, as you know, a fellow therapist, but also I feel like there's this beautiful heart connection of the journeys aligning in some ways and experiencing experiencing.
Yeah.
So I'm just grateful that people like you and yeah, leaders like you dare to step up and dare to speak their truths, because just like you shared yourself, it's so important to have these conversations and to open up. And I think you are such a beautiful example and role model for so many people.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, you're making me feel so good. Thank you.
You're so welcome. I'm just really grateful for you being here, and I'd love to maybe before we go to a checkout and before we go ending today's class, I would love to check in with you. What would be some things after having these manifestation, the beautiful exercise you just shared? What would be steps that you'd say people should take if they're if they encounter these moments that they're not yet there to bring themselves to these higher vibrations, or when they are in the lower ones and just sometimes have no idea how to get out of it? How would you say what road to take? What steps to take?
So I would say, funny enough, let's jump into secret number 1 in the book, and it's those energetic check-ins. So sometimes when folks are first like, I don't even know what I feel all the time, or I don't know what to do with what I do feel. And y'all, emotions are one of the biggest precursors to manifestation. So mastering your emotions, I always say there's 3 tiers to it. If you're like I was, emotions ran me. So I was a victim to my emotions. If I got triggered, boom, I would go to a whole different place mentally. I thought that I was completely out of control of it. It wasn't up to me to define it. It was just what it was. I fully embodied the anger, the sadness, the hopelessness, the whatever it was. I didn't know that there was another option. And so the second tier is taking a few steps back. So when you find yourself in any vibrational state, any emotional or mental state that you don't like, right? And most often, if you're not manifesting what you want, then you don't like the way you feel, right? It kind of goes hand in hand. And so I would say take 5 steps back. And I do this, I used to do this physically. I would literally go, okay, whoa, I'm really triggered right now, or I don't like the emotional state that I'm in, or I don't like the thoughts that are coming up, or, whatever it is. And I would literally take 5 steps back. But you can just imagine it. But the idea is we're distancing ourselves. We're not disassociating, but we're distancing. We want to be able to go, what is this? What is this really? I'm going to not be so emotional. I'm going to be curious. I'm so curious why this is the emotion that I'm currently feeling, or why I got triggered and what I'm telling myself about it. Because I always imagine if your boss comes in the door and screams at you, there could be 3 different options, 5 different, 10 different ways you could have chosen to feel. Maybe you immediately go to anger, but maybe your coworker immediately goes to beating themselves up about it, and then they blow up on their spouse later or something like that. But why does everybody have a different reaction? Well, because they're telling themselves something different. So if we can tell ourselves something different to the same stimuli, then it's not the stimuli that's the problem. It's our reaction and our perception of what we're telling ourselves. So I would say that if someone can kind of start just checking in with your emotions, with the way you feel. If you can do it, I say every hour, but sometimes it drives people crazy because they're like, oh, don't really like this. You're spotting, there's a spotlight on how I feel, and I do not like how I feel all the time. So this is not about judgment. This is just feedback. Again, we're not going to get more emotional because of the feedback. We're just going to be super curious why it is that we're finding that. I'm always like, just treat myself like a science experiment. And then there's not so much emotion and meaning and, I'm freaking out and all that stuff. But once you see, okay, I'm noticing that most often I am in this particular emotional state, we want to understand why. And the biggest piece to get to that point, if you're lost in it, is doing what I call a pattern interrupt, which everyone, in our world knows what that is. But a pattern interrupt being something that either, whether it's a physical or a mental and visual, or it could be something auditory, something that's going to get you into a different energy than the one you're currently in. And I always just go simple, and I'm like, normally when I'm super triggered and frustrated or whatever it is, normally I want to, go put the sheets over my head and just lay in bed. Instead, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to do something else. And neurologically, it's going to, over time, if we do it right, it's going to rewire our reactions, because we're not doing the same thing we normally do. So of course, we're not going to get the same results in a good way. So I always say, just start paying attention to what you feel. If you can do those little energetic check-ins and say, how do I feel? And if you can take it one step further and say why, sometimes awareness in and of itself, where you're like, oh, I was telling myself that my boss hated me because he yelled in that moment, but he actually is having issues at home or something like that. We're just looking to pull a little bit of that emotional energy out. And that puts us at the top tier of that emotional chart, which is master manifestors use their emotions to manifest. We know how to use them with gratitude. Like you've said gratitude so many times, and I'm like, this is so high vibrational. Yes, yes, yes. Because gratitude is such an incredible vibration. So, you know, bringing those more positive emotions in.
Wow, you shared so much, so many goodies. If you need to take some water in between.
I just got it. I think it's good, but I had a cold a couple days ago, so I'm like, we'll see if we can work through it. It's those tickles that's not going to go away. So send me energy, guys. I'm fighting it.
Send me.
Thank you.
And
authenticity at its finest.
yes, and that's the way, you know, that's the way life goes as for everybody watching and listening. I mean, just let it flow through you. Apparently it is supposed to be released. I just love what you just shared, how you kind of divide the three tiers you said, and the way you end it is, once you've discovered and become curious and well, to look at your emotions and what it means and what how your body is reacting to it once you took some distance and take these 5 steps back.
Yeah.
And then kind of learn to reframe and rephrase the way you look at it and the way you think about it. And then number 3, to kind of start being the master by you know, really using these emotions to create something new with them or through them even. And I love how you've shared this, and I really feel that people should read your book. And I think there's so many goodies already that you shared here, so the book will be the cherry on top.
Thank you. Yes, it's pretty comprehensive, I will say.
Yes, I love it so much. I think to kind of wrap up today's live class, I'd love to you know, create some space. If there's anything, before we dive into where people can find you, is there anything that we might have not touched on yet that you'd like to share, or maybe some saying or something that you feel you'd like to put?
Yeah, actually, when you said saying, this is something that I've said a lot, and it has helped me so much in knowing when I'm off track and why. And it's so simplistic, and it is, the action doesn't have to change with the intentional energy may need to. And what that means is, whatever you want to create, a house on the hill, if you want the Ferrari, if you want the soul, your intentional energy comes from something where your cup is already full, or, you know, the love is already there. Oh, it's so, so beautiful. So you don't have to change what you desire, but you may need to do the work to where you're coming from an overflowing cup, emotionally, you know, experientially, and so forth, versus this will then fulfill me. It is, I have the fulfillment. I'm on the vibration of fulfillment, whatever that means to me. And everything that I desire is already just available on that reality, versus trying to drag it down into your reality.
Yes, I love that. Then, you know, the whole approach also changes. Like, instead of having the grabbing, the approach from within, thinking or feeling that you need to look for it outside yourself, then kind of shifts to trusting that you can find it inward, and then you will attract everything that comes on that same frequency once you've allowed yourself to do that inner work.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that. I love that saying. And if people that have not yet bought your book or have not yet discovered what it is that you do, or what it is that you and your husband you know, bring into this world, or if there are any beautiful therapists out here that love to study with you. Where should people go? Where can we find you?
So the book specifically, which we have tons of bonuses, is the8secrets.com. So THE, the number 8 secrets.com. And as far as some of my different practitioner programs and other things that we have, they can find that at authenticliving.com.
I love it. We will make sure to put this website also in the show notes for you and for everybody listening and watching. So you can find it there. And then, so just one more time, authenticliving.com.
Yep.
And
the8secrets.com. Yep.
Love it so much. And if people
we'll have to do this again because I think our recording went out as well. So you're stuck with me another time.
Oh, I hope, yeah, that would be amazing to get to be stuck with you again. I'd love that. I think that the recording just went on this side, so it might work still.
Okay, good. Good.
And yeah, if people want to connect with you on social media, for example, this is your Instagram account. People can find you here. Is there any other place that you'd like to connect with people?
I feel like, I don't know how many folks are into TikTok, but I'm having a little bit of fun over there. And it's the same handle as Instagram, Manifest with Mandy, but tons of free content on YouTube, just under Mandy Morris, and Facebook. If you guys scroll through, you'll see years of just my thoughts that I wake up with every morning. So follow me on Facebook or YouTube as well.
Great. Well, I wish that everybody will do that once they've listened or watched this. And I'm sure that I will connect with you on other platforms now as well. I'm grateful for you spending your precious time with us here, Mandy, but also everybody watching. Thank you for being here, asking your questions, being so brave, and sharing your comments. Well, I say we, but I know that I loved having you here, and I think you did too. I feel that we've wrapped it up and that this is a beautiful ending of a beautiful life class again. Thank you, everybody, and I wish you a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.